A loudmouth sailor strikes a young female corpsman across the face in the ship's mess hall, mocking her in front of dozens. The room goes silent. No one intervenes. In the back, a quiet sailor rises, unnoticed, calm, unshaken. The aggressor smirks. He thinks it's an easy intimidation. What he doesn't know: the silent sailor is part of classified SEAL unit. And this moment will change everything. Where are you watching this from today? Let me know in the comments. Is it from your living room, from work, on deployment, or maybe somewhere between memories? Before we begin this powerful story of silent strength and unseen battles, please take a moment to subscribe. These stories honor voices that rarely speak, but always stand. He didn't hesitate. His hand cut through the air and struck her across the cheek with the kind of force that only comes from anger long fed and never challenged. The metal tray clattered from her hands. Dozens of sailors froze mid-bite. Her eyes didn't water, not yet. She stood perfectly still, as if the slap had landed not on her face, but deep inside a place long conditioned to survive. He stood over her, breath heavy, and spat the words like poison. Know your place. No one moved, no one spoke, until someone quietly stood. He rose from a table in the back of the mess hall, tall, broad shoulders under a plain service uniform. No rank displayed beyond what was standard. No medals, no visible awards. Just the posture of someone who'd seen what shouldn't be seen. And survived. He didn't say a word, just stepped forward, tray in hand, eyes fixed not on the aggressor but on the woman. Every step was controlled, deliberate. No one seemed to recognize him, except one Master Chief halfway across the room. His fork paused mid-air, eyes narrowing. He had seen that walk before. The kind you only learn beneath waves deeper than light travels. The kind that means this will not end as expected. She pressed her palm to her cheek gently. A pink bloom appeared across the skin. She didn't cry, but the way she swallowed, the way her fingers trembled against the metal table as she steadied herself, revealed the mountain she had been climbing alone. She was Hospital Corpsman 3rd Class, fresh from field training, preparing for deployment. Months of exhaustion sat beneath her eyes, hidden behind a smile she wore too often for others, too rarely for herself. She had helped combat medics patch up those who never spoke of what they saw. She had held the hands of men bleeding out, hearing last words they asked her never to repeat. She had earned the right to stand in that hall and be treated as more than a target of someone else's insecurity. But yet, no one moved, except him. The aggressor, Petty Officer Jason Keller, known for loud bravado and empty victories, turned to face the quiet sailor. He laughed, mocking. "You want some too, hero?" Still, silence, no clenched fists, no raised voice. Just a slow breath in and a slow breath out. The mess hall waited. Even the air seemed to hesitate. His name was Petty Officer 1st Class Aaron Graves, but the name held little meaning to anyone outside specific files tucked within classified vaults. To most, he was just Graves, a man that blended easily into the background, a man who spoke rarely, a man who avoided attention. But beneath that stillness lived a history etched in places he'd never share, born to a father who served 22 years before a folded flag replaced his presence, raised by a mother who smiled through grief and taught him that strength wasn't loud, it was steady. At 18, Aaron enlisted, carrying his father's dog tags beneath his uniform. He never showed them, never mentioned them. Years passed. He became part of a SEAL detachment specializing in rescue and covert recovery, something most sailors didn't even know existed. Missions performed without recognition, losses grieved without funerals, success measured not in medals, but in lives saved silently in the night. One mission cost him his hearing in one ear after an underwater breach. Another cost him a teammate, a best friend who died shielding him from shrapnel. All Graves asked in return was to finish the mission. He never spoke of pain, but he carried every sacrifice with dignity. Now he stood not because he was angry, but because someone hit a healer. Someone struck the very person who patched people like him back together. And in his quiet world, that was unacceptable. Keller rolled his shoulders, smirking as laughter trickled from two others at his table. "You think you're going to defend her? What are you, her bodyguard?" Graves didn't speak. He simply set his tray down next to hers and gently picked up her fallen meal tray from the floor. He wiped away the spilled drink with a napkin. The mess hall watched in absolute stillness. Her eyes widened, shock, confusion, and beneath it, relief. He then turned, finally looking Keller directly in the eyes. The silence felt like a storm preparing to break. Graves spoke softly, voice steady. "You will apologize to her." It wasn't a request. It wasn't loud, but it had weight. Keller scoffed. "Or what?" A slow pause. Graves blinked once. "Or I will remind you what respect feels like." A murmur rippled across the room. Keller laughed and stepped forward, squaring up to Graves. "Big talk from someone no one's ever heard of." Graves didn't flinch. "People like me don't get hurt," he said quietly. "We get sent." A chill traveled down the spine of at least 12 people in that room. Master Chief stood abruptly. His face went pale. Around them, sailors avoided eye contact with the victim. Some looked ashamed. Others stared at Keller, trying to gauge whether this confrontation would simply unravel or explode. A junior seaman whispered from a corner table, "We should step in." His friend whispered back, "If you don't understand what's happening, let it unfold." The corpsman inhaled shakily. She felt the pain radiate from her cheek down into her chest. She wanted to tell them all to stop. She wanted to walk away. She wanted to pretend it didn't matter. But the way Graves had picked up her tray, the simplest show of respect, anchored her. He hadn't challenged the violence with force, he countered it with dignity. Her breath caught. A tear slipped down, not from the slap, but from finally being seen. Graves spoke again. "Strength isn't proven in who you hit," he said softly. "It's proven in who you protect." Those nearby felt something shift. Several lowered their heads, some clenched their jaws. He didn't raise his hands, yet somehow everyone knew. The balance had already tipped. Deep in the ocean's cold silence, months before his assignment to this vessel, Graves held his teammate as he bled out. A young SEAL named Hayden, married, his wife expecting their first child. Hayden's last words were soft, slipping between gasps. "Protect those who heal us, they're our last line." He was referring to medics, corpsmen, doctors who never carried rifles to the front lines but carried the lives of fighters back to safety. Graves promised him, not by words but by the way his hands trembled as he closed Hayden's eyes. Since then he had avoided conflict in public spaces, avoided unnecessary fights. He knew what war was, and it didn't belong in mess halls. But when Keller struck that corpsman, he didn't see a disciplinary violation. He saw Hayden laid out again. He saw someone attacking the very people who patch up pieces lost in unseen battles. And for the first time in years, his oath rose from quiet places inside him and demanded space. Keller stepped forward. "You think you're better than me because you stand there calm?" Graves didn't answer. Keller shoved him, hard. Graves took a single step back, his eyes never leaving Keller. "You'll want to reconsider that," said Master Chief, voice strained. Keller glared. "Stay out of it. He wants to act tough. Let's see it." Graves' posture didn't change. He spoke quietly once more. "I won't strike you, not unless you force me to." A lieutenant near the back caught sight of something, a faint mark on Graves' inner wrist as his sleeve shifted, not a tattoo. When they realized they had underestimated the wrong man. As Keller's hand began to swing, Graves' eyes locked onto his, calm, resolute, a silent storm rising, and with that, Keller's arm moved quickly, but Graves stepped into the motion, gently redirecting the violence like water flowing around stone. The movement was subtle, controlled, trained. Keller's wrist met air resistance, not flesh. In one smooth motion, Graves caught Keller's forearm, turned his own body sideways and allowed the enraged sailor's momentum to betray him. His balance faltered, his knees buckled, the mess hall gasped collectively, but still Graves didn't strike him. He simply guided Keller downward, one hand behind his shoulder, the other bracing his arm, stopping short of injury. The way a medic might reposition someone to avoid further harm, Keller hit the ground softly, more stunned than hurt. Graves knelt beside him, still holding the forearm with care. His voice remained gentle. "You're not my enemy," he said quietly. "But right now, you're a danger to the people who keep us alive." Keller breathed harshly, confusion replacing aggression. Around them, sailors watched, frozen in the presence of something that felt less like discipline and more like sacred respect. No one knew whether to speak. The silence became reverent. Master Chief broke it. "Stand down," he said to Keller, his tone razor-sharp with restrained authority. Keller blinked, looking from Master Chief to Graves, then at the corpsman he'd struck. The redness on her cheek had deepened. a soft tremble in her jaw now visible. Shame crept across his face. Graves released his arm slowly, stood without turning his back, and then extended his hand, not to pull Keller up aggressively, but to offer something unexpected. He offered forgiveness in the smallest gesture. Keller hesitated, then took the hand. Graves helped him up. A quiet lesson delivered. The room wasn't breathing normally yet. Something still hung in the air, not fear but revelation. Master Chief cleared his throat. "Graves, step with me." Graves nodded. The corpsman watched him walk, sensing that he was leaving something critical behind, a moment she didn't want to pass without words. "Petty Officer Graves," she called softly. He turned. "Thank you." He gave a single nod, nothing more. But the way he held her gaze said everything. Then he followed Master Chief to an adjacent briefing room. The door closed softly behind them. Master Chief remained silent for a long moment. He stared at Graves, not at his expression, but at the stillness he carried. "I thought you were gone," Master Chief finally said, voice unsteady. "Those missions, they said you never came back whole." Graves responded without emotion. "I returned functional." Master Chief nodded, swallowing emotion. "I'm aware of what functional meant for your team." Another quiet moment. Then Master Chief whispered, "You shouldn't have to carry that alone." Graves looked down. "I don't, not anymore." "And the corpsman?" the chief asked. "She has stood over more broken bodies than most who deploy," Graves said. "She shouldn't be struck for carrying that burden." "And Keller? He lost control," Graves replied. "But anger is curable. Disrespect is learned. It can be unlearned." Master Chief nodded slowly. "What do you want done?" Graves exhaled. "Not punishment," he said. "Understanding." Master Chief straightened. "I'll organize a formation. This won't be buried. It will be reckoned with dignity." Graves' jaw tightened. "He's still one of ours," he cautioned. "And she?" Master Chief asked. Graves met his eyes. "She is one of our lifelines." That afternoon, word spread quietly through corridors and berthing areas. Rumors swirled, assuming a fight, a near arrest, something violent. But when the intercom crackled and called all personnel to assembly in the hangar bay, no one expected what followed. Rows formed. Keller stood front and center, head down. He expected disciplinary action. Beside him stood the corpsman, standing tall now, though the bruise was still plainly visible. And between them, Petty Officer Aaron Graves. The commanding officer approached. He spoke to the assembly. "There was an incident today. It could be handled privately. It will not be. Not because we seek blame, but because we seek truth." Silence. Every sailor stood at attention. The CO continued. "In this crew we eat together, train together, serve together, and we protect the ones who protect. When they stand, we do not question why. We stand with them." He glanced at Graves. The crowd looked at Graves curiously. No one knew his story, until someone stepped forward. A decorated Marine Corps captain, visiting for joint operations, moved from the sidelines. With visible reverence, he stood beside Graves in formation. He murmured, "My life is one he saved." Heads snapped around. The captain looked at the sailors. "He won't tell you his story, so I will tell you one. We were ambushed near the border. No air support, no backup. I was wounded. They left me for dead. He carried me 3 miles under fire, then swam with me across a river with fragments in his leg. I survived because he gave parts of himself." Dead silence. Graves met the captain's eyes, the unspoken past washing between them. He simply said, "We were a team." The captain nodded. "And you still are." The commanding officer took a step back, then spoke a single command. "Attention, present arms." Every sailor lifted their hand in salute, not for rank, not for protocol, but for respect. Graves did not return the salute. He simply stood, eyes forward. Tears slid down Morales's face. Keller saluted with trembling fingers, holding the pose longer than regulation required. One by one, heads lowered in silent acknowledgement. For the medics, for the silent, for those who serve without applause. Morales, through tears, whispered to those near her. "He didn't fight to win. He stood so I wouldn't have to fall." The line rippled through the assembly like a truth sinking in. Later, in the captain's office, decisions were made. Keller was not discharged. He requested remedial leadership training and volunteered for hospital rotation support, learning firsthand what corpsmen endure. Graves requested no official recognition, only that Morales be considered for advanced field medical training. 2 weeks later, she was accepted into the elite combat medic course. She found a note slipped beneath the application approval. It simply read, "Carry honor quietly. G." The mess hall looked as it always did, same tables, same trays, except people greeted Morales by name now. Keller held doors open. Conversations paused respectfully when she entered, not from fear, but from genuine regard. Graves still sat in the corner, still quiet. But this time, when he looked up and saw her smiling, there was peace in the way his breath left his body. She walked over, set her tray beside his. "Chief says I'll be deploying with the Advanced Support Unit," she said. Graves nodded. "You'll save lives," he replied. She held his gaze. "So did you." He said nothing, but his hands, once known for violence in service of a cause, now rested calmly around a coffee mug, in silence, in strength. We don't always know the battles someone has fought to stand as quietly as they do. Sometimes, the loudest strength is not in how someone strikes back, but in how they choose not to. Sometimes the ones who speak least carry stories that could fill oceans. Today's lesson is simple. Respect the healers. Honor the silent. Never mistake quiet for weakness, because the person you overlook might be the very person who once walked through hell to protect you. So tell me now, where are you watching from today? A living room far from the sea? A base overseas? A small town where someone you love once wore a uniform? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this story resonated with you the most? Comment below. Share your reflections. And if this story moved you, subscribe for more tales that honor those who stand, not to be seen, but so others don't fall. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay respectful, stay curious, and never underestimate quiet strength.